you ever been so focused on winning the race that you kind of forgot what you were running for in the first place? Well, today we're going to dive into this incredible ancient story that's all about that. It's a dramatic sprint right out of the biblical book of 2 Samuel, and wow, it's a powerful lesson about communication and what happens when just being fast gets in the way of being truthful.
So right off the bat, this story just throws a huge question at us. When you've got something to say, when you've got news to deliver, what's more important? Being the first one to say it, or actually delivering the right message, to the right person in a way they can actually hear it? All right, so let's jump right in. The story doesn't start at the beginning. It drops us smack in the middle of the action. Picture this. 2 guys are in a desperate, all-out race. A kingdom's fate has just been sealed on the battlefield, and now everything depends on getting that news to the king. So a really brutal civil war has just wrapped up. One army is totally defeated, a huge rebellion has been crushed, and back in the capital, the king is just waiting. Pacing, probably. Anxious for any word at all about what happened.
And out of all that battlefield dust, 2 messengers start sprinting toward the king. Now, here's the thing. They're both technically carrying news of a victory. But, as you're about to see, the stories they're bringing, they couldn't be more different. And that, right there, is the whole point of the story. See, one runner, he's got the facts, the cold, hard data of the battle. But the other guy, he's carrying the truth that actually matters to the person waiting at the finish line. It's that classic difference, right, between just having information and really understanding its meaning. Okay, so what was really on the line here? I mean, why was this race so important? To get that, we've got to rewind a little and look at the war itself, because this wasn't just some political fight for power. No, this was a deeply personal, heartbreaking family drama. The backstory here is just intense. You have King David, this legendary leader forced to go to war against his own son, Absalom, who's super charismatic but also super ambitious. David's pro-army, led by his toughest-nails general, Joab, they make short work of the rebels. It's a total victory. But there's a huge but. Absalom is killed, and this was directly against the king's explicit orders. In this quote, man, it just shows you where David's head was at. Before his soldiers even marched out, his number one priority wasn't winning. It wasn't about securing his kingdom. It was about the safety of his rebellious son. For David, this was never about the crown. It was about his kid. So, the battle's over. Absalom is dead, and the story snaps right back to the battlefield. General Joab is now in a really tough spot. How in the world do you tell your king, hey, congratulations, we won the war, but, oh, by the way, we also killed your son? And this is where things get really, really interesting. You've got 2 completely different guys who step up for the job. First, you have Ahimaaz. He's an insider, the son of the high priest, and he is just chomping at the bit to be the one to deliver the quote-unquote good news. Joab, the general, literally tells him, don't do it, you won't get a reward for this. Then you have the other guy, the Cushite soldier. He's an outsider, a foreigner, and he's not volunteering. He's just given a simple order. Go, tell the king what you have seen. He's chosen because he can just deliver the straight facts, no politics, no spin.
But Ahimaaz, he doesn't listen. He insists, and the guy is fast, you gotta give him that. He takes a shortcut, outruns the other messenger, and he's the first one to arrive at the city gates, totally out of breath, amped up to announce the big win he's so sure about.
And he comes flying in and just lays it on thick. He gives this perfect textbook victory speech, Praise God, we've defeated the traitors. The whole 9 yards. If you're looking at it purely from a political or military angle, it's exactly what you'd want to hear. But David, he doesn't even hear it. He just waves all that talk of victory aside. He cuts right through the noise and asks the only question that actually matters to him, the one thing that's been eating him alive this whole time. Is his son okay? And this is the moment it all falls apart for Ahimaaz. The star runner just crumbles. He knows Absalom is dead, of course he does. That's exactly what Joab warned him about. But standing there, looking at the king, at the father, he just can't do it. He can't deliver the bad news. So he dodges, he gives this vague non-answer, and just like that, his big win in the race means absolutely nothing. Just a few moments later, the second runner, the Cushite soldier, finally gets there. David asks him the exact same question. And this man, he doesn't flinch. He just tells him the whole heartbreaking truth about what happened to his son. He didn't win the foot race, not at all. But he was the one who actually completed the mission.
So what's the big takeaway here? I mean, what are we supposed to learn from all this? Clearly, it's not just a story about some ancient battle. It's a timeless lesson about how we communicate.
And it's all wrapped up in Ahimaaz's desperate, frantic, and ultimately completely empty run.
Yeah, Ahimaaz becomes this perfect symbol for all of us, really. He had the information, right? The rebellion was over, that's a fact. But he completely missed the truth that actually mattered to David. He was so caught up in the glory of being first, of shouting, "We won," that he never once stopped to think about his audience, about what the king actually needed to hear. And in the end, all that speed, all that effort, it was worthless because the message itself was hollow.
And that's really the challenge this story leaves us with, isn't it? In our own lives, at work, with our families, it is so easy to get caught up in that same race, wanting to be the first with the update, the first to share the good news, the first to claim a success. But this story makes us stop and ask a much deeper question. Are we just running with information? Or are we making sure we're carrying the truth that actually needs to be heard?